The name of the game is not Boggle. Has anyone ever played Boggle before?
No.
Okay. It's on your phone. It's kind of like the game Word Crossy, if you've ever seen that, where people swipe and put words together with their letters. Okay, you don't know that one either. It looks like this. So you will be told the letters that you will use, and you can use those letters to make any word, and that's cool. So for the assignment, you'll be making a clone of this using the magic of UI text field delegate. Does anyone remember what a UI text field delegate is? Is it a struct? Is it a class? Is it something else? Albert? It's a protocol. Neato. So UI text field delegate is a protocol. Does anyone remember that weird special thing about our protocol UI text field delegate? Aaron.
Weird about it?
Yeah, there's something weird about it that made it like really flexible to use.
So it doesn't have, so it has functions like built in. You don't have to, say initialize it.
Okay. It has functions built in, and we don't have to, it's a implement might be the word there. So we don't have to implement them. They're all optional functions. So the way that UI text field delegate is set up, it's got a bunch of behaviors that you can use it for, but you don't have to use any or all of them. So it has optional implementation for every method. Cool. Let's look at this project. The following struct and class provides the data you'll be working with. Have your model choose one of the text twist info random at start. I'm so sorry. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just take all this information. I'm going to copy it. Damn it. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to put it into the Xcode project I created. I'm just going to create a new file called data. Maybe I'll change this around later, but I'm just going to steal the data I was given. Sounds good to me. Let's look at this data. We've got a struct called test twist info. I think they mean text twist info. And we've got a class called word data. This word data has a static constant called all info. Let me ask you, how would we access the information on this word data if it is a static constant? Michelle, how could I, let's say I'm in here, how could I type and get the information in word data? Cool, so if I type something like worddata.allinfo, because this is a static or a type constant. Static constant. So we access it by using the type, not using an instance of the type. Sweet. Let's talk about what this info is. So for the first text twist info, which is the struct we have up here, what are the characteristics of it? What properties does it have? Kevin, just talk me through this one object right here.
It has three properties: word count, letters, and words. Type in string and array string.
Cool. What do you think? So we're going to make something like Boggle, which we saw in that GIF at the top. What do you think those properties are for?
The data being like the words
extremely disturbing. Sorry, can you start that again? So what do you think, for example, word count tells us? Cool. So the number of words that, what about the letters? What are the letters for?
The letters that you use to make up all the words.
Cool. And then words, I think you were hinting at it. What is words?
All the possible words that you can be made from the letters.
Awesome. So we've only got 3 properties here. Kevin walked us through them. We can make 27 words out of the letters C, D, E, N, N, O. And those 27 words are contained in the property words. So if we keep scrolling down, bless you, the count for this array should be that there are 27 items in there. So that's all the information we need. It's all our models need to do here. Cool. So we've talked through the data, which was given to us. Let's go back and look at that data. How do you think we could separate this data so that we have individual models for each thing? So they give us just kind of this blob of data. Say I want to start setting up my MVC structure. What could or should I do with this data? Let's just talk higher level, like the structural level of our code. Adam. I've got just this blob of data. I'm personally telling you that this is not a nice or efficient way to set up models. What can we do? It's not really, this is a confusing way to set up our models because in the past our models have been like distinct. So here I've got 2 models. What should I do with them to set my data up correctly in a readable way for other people? View controller.
I set a variable to word data.
Variable. Sorry, I'm asking a slightly different question. I'm not asking how do you use them. I'm asking how should you structure your code?
Oh, how should I structure my code?
Mm-hmm.
To do that.
Yeah, we've got 2 models here. How would someone know where my models are if they just looked at my file structure? This file is just called data. I don't think that's very helpful. Okay, but I've got 2 models in here. Good. Can everyone shout out for Adam? So we can create 2 files that they're each in their own distinct place. So I'm going to rename this one test twist info, which will be for this struct. And then I'm going to create another new file called word data. And in that file, I'm just going to, whoa, go back. I'm just going to plop in all the word data.
That was intentional.
What?
It's intentional.
What was intentional?
Do that.
Absolutely. Cool.
Very nice of you guys.
So, I mean, I copied it and pasted it poorly. You could have taken each of these and put them in their own folder and anticipated my question. You know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to make sure my Git is set up. Thank you. Import UI. How do you spell UI?
AIT.
I want it to autocomplete. I don't trust me. Oh no. Why isn't it working? Oh no, it's not working. Let's find out what's going on.
Because you change.
Build input cannot be found. It can't find my file. So interesting. Why can't it find my file? What? What was the jinx?
That is right there.
It's right there. I agree. So this is Word data. Let's go look at test twist info. It looks like it lost my file. I'm just gonna, there's probably other ways to fix this, but I'm just gonna delete that thing and make a new file called, it's a Swift file that we will call test twist info. So just, yeah.
I was just wondering, why do you your text up your file have the text twist model? That be okay.
Say that again?
Why doesn't your project have a text twist model?
You didn't fork it from like we did.
Oh.
I didn't. I'm making it from scratch. So I'm just making it according to the directions here. Cool. Let's see if this compiles. Damn it. So if I hit Command B, it's going to try to build the project. If I see no errors, excuse me, if I see no errors, that means that my code is probably set up correctly. So, what I probably should have done already, but didn't do, which was such a bad idea, I'm so sorry, is I need to set this up as a Git repository. Yay! So I'm going to go to my desktop. I think I called this text twist. So, if I were to make the screen much bigger so you could see it, if I checked Git status, what is going to happen right now? Not even yet. What have you all seen before when you haven't yet created a Git? Are you waving or are you raising your hand? Liana, what happens if I hit enter here, but this is not a Git repository? Tell me what I should expect to see. Great. It says fatal, fatal, fatal. Not a Git repository. So, Angela, what is the command to make this a Git repository? Thank you. Perfect. So now, if I check my Git status, it says there's some untracked files, nothing added to commit, so I got to add my stuff. What I really should have done is I should have done this before I made those model files. But I'm just going to be lazy and say git add. The dot means add everything. So git add everything, git commit. I'm just going to call this initial commit. Nice.
Why do it? What's the problem that happens when you make a model
What's,
before you even try?
that is such a good question. Who can answer Liana's question?
What is the issue that happens if you create a repository after you started working on the project?
Can you say that louder? Because it's super important.
Nothing really happens. It's just like the practice to commit often. That way you know specifically like what you've done at each stage, and if you ever want to go back, you know exactly what stage to go back to.
Great. So it's just best practice to commit as many individual things as possible so that you can know this happened then. But because I hadn't yet committed all of those folders, I wasn't able to go through individually and commit each file. Now, if I make a change in this folder, say I made this a double for no reason at all, if I checked my git status, it would say, oh, there are changes in a couple files. Don't worry about this one right now. how can I see what changed in this file? Does anyone know the git command? Nima. Do you know of a git command or a series of commands that can help us see what actually changed in the file? So we just did git status, and that showed us here are the files that changed. How can I look in them? So ls is going to list out our files for us. It's going to be a git command. Okay, let's see if we can get some help. Eric? Git log shows us something slightly different. It tells us what commits we've made. But what I want to know right now is I want to know what is different that we've done in Git. What we've done in Git.
Different.
Git diff. Not diff. Oh, wow, I can't even spell anymore. Diff being short for what's different. What's the diff? So git diff in red text shows here's what used to be on that line. Here's what that line is now. It might also show you if you inserted lines. But what it does is it looks through your code line by line. And so it can say, oh, in this location, here's what changed. So it's not actually like doing anything with your code except reading it from a file and saying, this text in this file changed. So that's our git diff. There's another way that we can look at the diff and actually add it as we're looking at it. So let me make a couple changes and show you how that works. Let's say word data, I'm going to fudge this and change the number there as well. Man, go away. Okay. So now let's check git status. Our two model files changed. So both of our model files changed. I can do git diff, bless you, and I'll see in text twist info, this changed. If I hit space, it'll go down to the next part of the code that changed, and that's now in worddata.swift. This is, again, that editor called Vim. So to scroll in text, you use the space button. To get out of here, you press Q, and it gets you out of there. I'm sorry? No, the colon is kind of like this whole prompt. You can use that in your commits if you need to get. There's a specific way that you get from text editor to giving it commands in Vim that colon is kind of like the prompt for. But right there, when we were doing git diff, we just needed to enter Q because the colon is already there. The colon's kind of just like the command prompt in the terminal. So we can look through the diff. We can look through all the changes using git diff. We can actually add, as we look through the diff by using git add-p. And I don't actually know what the P is, but I like to pretend that it says add in parts. It might not be that. So git add, okay, it's showing me one part of the diff. It's saying, here's a change we noticed. Do you want to add it? Do you want to stage it? Yes, no, Q means quit. And then the other one you should worry about here is D, which we'll try to, if you have a bunch of changes all in one place, try to split those changes apart. So it'll try to say, do you want to add these? Do you want to divide these changes so you can add them individually? This is looking through each file just like the diff is. I'm going to say N because I don't want to add this. And I'm just going to say Q here because I'm going to quit. Now, I've not committed anything. I want to get rid of the changes that I haven't added or committed yet. Does anyone know the command for that? Can someone raise their hand? Sorry, I heard a lot of things. Allison. Git remove is definitely a way to... So what do you want to git remove? Okay? So git rm text twist and then the name of the file. Let's see what happens. Error, the following file has local modifications. So we actually use git rm at a different stage in the process. Right now, if we want to get rid of those changes, Rod? Cool, git checkout. Let's try that. Git checkout text twist. So I give the file name and say all of the changes which we noted in our git status here. So whatever changes there are in this file that have not been staged for commit, if we hit checkout, what it'll have done is it will have gotten rid of all the changes in that file. So before I checked out that file, it had some changes. Now it's going to get rid of all the changes since the last commit that weren't staged. So I checked it out. Just like with git add, you can say, I want to check out all of my changes. And I'll hit git checkout dot. Now if I check my status, it says nothing to commit, working tree clean. Sunny.
But you still have to go back to Xcode and remove the changes that you didn't want. Yep.
Let's take a look. So when I checked out the changes, it went through those files and it made those changes in the text form. So now the word count is back to being 27, and the type of this word count is an int. So you can make changes into the file using git. So be careful with your git checkout. It looks like your mind is blown. Let's look at it again. I'm going to make those same exact changes. I'm going to, well, first let's see that they exist again. So it's tracked that there are some changes. Now I'm going to check them out. And now, you see how it just updated that? Because Git is built into and looking at Xcode. Whoa. It is creepy. B.
Can't you also do git revert one of the changes that you've done earlier?
Yes. So you can do git revert, or you can use something called reset head to go back a commit. But we don't have enough commits right now that I'll want to check them because my git log only has that initial commit. But I can revert or reset head, which is saying the current place in our git history, which is the present in our case. Okay, so that's some git stuff. Let me put that somewhere. I'll make some notes that I can Slack it to you later. Wow. What did we just learn about? What are some commands? What did we start with? Git init. What does git init do? I know you can't see this. Don't worry about it. Initializes current directory as a Git repository. Let me show you what I mean by current directory. I just want to work on Git so much, like it's super important. So I'm on my desktop. There's a command to make a directory called mkdir, make directory. So I'm going to call this folder 1. I'm going to change my directory into folder 1. I'm going to make another directory called folder 2. I'm going to change directories into that folder 2. Then I'm going to make another directory. What do you think we should call this one? I knew someone was going to have it. Okay, so folder 4. Let's go into folder 4. Now, I'm going to create a text file. Touch lets you create a file called, I don't know, text.txt. Great. If I hit ls here, I see there's a text file. If I hit git status, what do I expect to see? Kimball. So I just created some folders, and I want to check the git status. What should I expect to see? So I need to initialize the folders. It's going to tell me this is not a Git repository. So I'm going to hit git init. Great. So now if I hit git status, it'll say you've got an untracked file. Let's add that. And please don't use this that often, but you can add and commit just by using commit by using -am. So -m is how you create a message. A is another option it's using there to add all of the changes. Just showing you a bunch of stuff. I'll call this initial commit. Sorry. AMD. Am. What is the P? Push. Yeah, I'm definitely not showing you that. So now if I check my git status, oh, I did it wrong. Sorry. How can we git, add, and, ooh, let's ignore her. Olympia, is there a way that I can add all of my code when I'm committing as well? Git dot dot? Git add. I don't want to do that. I want to just do it when I commit. So let's look it up. Git add code when committing. Shut up. The phone is talking. Saving changes to a local repository. Commit. The commit does some stuff. Oh. Get your freaking pop-up out of here. Okay. Important options. So again, this hyphen means I'm going to add some options with my commit thing. This -m, super important, because otherwise it sends you into Vim and you have to try to enter your text there, and that's just, I'm not going to discriminate against Vim, but I don't think you're going to like it. Let's learn about this -a. Includes all currently changed files in this commit. Keep in mind, however, that untracked new files are not included. So what did I not take into account with my git commit am command that I used there, Sam? So I hadn't added the untracked files, right? So git is only going to look in the files that it already recognizes that have been committed and look for those changes when you use that -a. So I'm going to have to go ahead and git add. I know I'm git adding everything. If I check my status, it says, here's some changes to be committed. So now I'll do my initial commit. Nice. All right, so this is the git init question. I can do git status in here. I'm in folder 4. Let me show you what that looks like in Finder. So if I go to my desktop, if I go to folder 4, folder 2, folder 4, this is where we initialized the Git repository. What's the option that lets you see them? There we go. So folder 1 has folder 2 inside of it, which has folder 4 inside of it. I initialized my Git repository here. So if I go back one level to folder 4, and I try to take the Git status, folder 2 is not a Git repository. The outermost folder of our Git repository is folder 4. So folder 2 isn't tracking the changes in folder 4 because folder 4 was not initialized as the repository. That's why we use the terminal, because it's important to know where our repos are. It's important to know how we can do stuff with our repos. Blah, blah, blah. Okay? Now I'm going to go back 2 steps, and I'm going to do something that I don't recommend, which is where I remove that folder. And if I check it out, thanks, Alex. If I have a look, we see it's gone. Okay, so git init is a good one. Git add, if we use dot, it adds all changes. if we use -p, it lets us look through the diff in parts. Great. Let's do git commit. If we use option M, it lets us, it lets us add a message in quotes right after, and we avoid using, I guess it's really just VI, but we'll call it div. If we use option A, it adds all changes in tracked files. Great. We also know one called git status. Great. We'll keep adding to this list as we go through today's warm-up. So let's go back to our code. Let me change directories into text twist. Neato. Let's go to our code. Wow, there's so much to being a developer, and you know so much about it. That's awesome. Let's go to the requirements of the project. So we've got our data, and we set it up in some models. And Phoenix had a question. I have not forgotten.
You did the dash AM. What does it do if it doesn't actually add it?
What does it do if it doesn't actually add it? So it's actually going to be the same thing as, so let's check our status in here, git commit am with a message, something, great. So that added some changes. So check our git log. That really wasn't the best thing it should have done. But now, if there are no changes, or if we only have untracked files, and you try to make a commit, Git stops you from adding that commit because there's nothing that changed. So it just says like, there's no reason for you to do this, so I'm not going to make anything. Allison.
So, did you create the repository, or you just initialize the project? Look at Google.
Are you talking about that folder example or in our actual test twist?
The actual test.
Yes. So I created from scratch a new project, and then I initialized that project with a Git repository. Or I initialized a Git repository from the command line in the folders that make up that project.
And should it appear in GitHub, or is that a whole different thing?
Does someone have an answer for Allison?
So my question is, I saw that we initialized the project, and the question is, do we then create the repository in the terminal that's going to make a repository in GitHub, or do we then need to manually create the repository?
So you'll have to create the repository in GitHub. GitHub is just a product that uses Git to track your things. It's not actually like associated with the Git functionality. It's mostly like a website that you store and look at code on, right?
So we're not pushing anything, just committing.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yes. Great question. Okay. So if we check our log, there's some stuff. If we look at Xcode, we've got our two model files. Check this out. I'm going to take my two model files. I'm going to create a new group from selection. I'm going to call, what do you think I should call that folder, Tia? Well, I've got two model files, and I'm putting them in a folder. What do you think I should call this folder? Nice. So I'm going to call it models, just to let me know there are plural model in there. Nice. Now I can know where to look if I'm making models. And I can also add new models in there and know exactly where everything is. I love organizing. It's so fun. Now, if I go to my terminal and check my Git status, I see some things changed in these two files that have something to do with the settings. It says there's a new file called models/text_twist and models/word data, and that those files not in the models folder have disappeared. It doesn't know where your folders go when you've got changes. I'm sorry, it doesn't know where your files go when you change their place in the hierarchy of folders. So if I hit git add, damn it, git add, and now I check git status, it starts to figure it out. It says, oh, that's right, the file that was called that is actually called models/that. I get it, because it's going ahead and looking at those folders, and you don't really have to worry about how it did it, but you do have to add those changes. What it didn't add is these modified things. So let's look at those part by part. It says something with all of the Swift file names. So this is how Xcode itself keeps track of the files in your project. What you're going to want to do is trust Xcode that it is doing the right thing and add all of these. So I'm looking at this in parts. I'm looking at diffs of it. I'm hitting yes. I'm hitting Y to add them. And if this kind of makes sense to anyone, there is something called a model that has as its children those two model files. So that's just showing you like what the file organization is in how it keeps track of your files. Great. Check our git status. All right, there's something called user state. I don't really care. Well, let's make a commit here. What could we say happened in this commit? Can someone describe in like in Hilde, in just like plain words, what did we just do? So let's look at Xcode. What did we just do in there? I wasn't paying attention. Oh no. Damn. Okay. What about Crystal? Can you tell me just like what I actually did with those files in that folder? How would you describe it? So I put what together? Like what would be the word? And if you had to pick from M, V, or C. Nice. So puts, models, where do we put them? Nice. So it puts our models in model folder. That is a great commit message. I love it. It's awesome. Because it tells me exactly what happened. Great. I know that now. All right, let's keep coding. So, we're finally at stage 1. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep this a little small so we can see it all on the screen. Set up your UI with a text field. What? What is a text field? Okay, I guess I know. Which takes the user input, a label, which sends messages to the user, and 4 text views, where the correct words will be displayed. So that kind of looks like what we see here. This is the label. Nope. Up here is the label. Here is the text field, which can do a whole bunch of things, which is super tight. And then we've got 4 text views, a couple of which are currently covered by the keyboard. Nice. So, who wants to walk me through how I can get this stuff into my project? Anthony, do you want to give it a shot? All right. So we need a text field, a label, and 4 text views. Cool. I'll go to my main.storyboard. Nice. Loving it. I know. It's building it. Stop. Stop. Command Shift L, I think it was. Nice. So I'm going to look up text view. Neat. Get in there. Sorry, did I hear the wrong thing? What did you tell me to add? I totally misheard you. Okay. Cool. Let's do the Adam thing. Damn it. Adam, what's the thing? Like that? Thank you, Adam. Okay, and I'll make another one here. How should we arrange them? In a circle. Okay. I'm going to just delete these so that I can have 4 that are the same size. I'll move you down here. Wow. I'll create one over here. Sounds good. I'll create another one over here. And another one over there. Awesome. Got my text views. What else do we need? Cool. So I'll drag that guy, put him at the top. So what is our text field going to do for us? Nice. Then what else do I need? Nice. So let's get a label in there. All right. I'll make it a little longer. I'll center it. Okay, so this is pretty much all we need in our UI. Thank you. Let's go back to the instructions. And it says, when the user types in a guess into the text field, they get a message if their guess was correct or had any errors, and then it gets added to the appropriate spot in the UI. It's not super descriptive, but what do we think is going on there? Can someone describe the process of playing Boggle or not Boggle? Do you know how to play Boggle, Hildy? Tell me about how to play Boggle. Nice. So you just get some random letters and you have to make words out of them? Nice. If we look at our models, that's exactly what our models are trying to do for us. So I'll go into my models folder. It'll say, I've got something called a test twist info. We can think of this like one game of Boggle. So it tells us how many possible words we can make out of the letters, and those words would be whatever is in this array. We've actually defined what each game, we've defined 3 different games in this worddata.allinfo. So with this combination of 6 letters, we can make 18 words. With this combination, we can make 14. Nice. Does everyone see how our models are actually modeling something in the real world? Now it's our job to turn those models into a game. So Hildy said, you get some letters, and then you have to make words out of them. What do our instructions say we should do with that? Set up your UI. When the user types in a guess into the text field and hits return, they get a message if their guess was correct or had any errors, and then it gets added to the appropriate UI. Where are they going to type? So they're going to type in a text field. which means we should probably set up our text field as what in our view controller? Alex. I've got a text field, and its job is going to be to take some input. And we saw a little bit about text fields yesterday. We're going to see a lot of bit about them in the future. How can we make it so that our view controller knows when something happens, such as typing, in our text field? Cool. So we're going to create an IB action so that any interaction with our UI sends a message to our controller. So let's call this user guess. Okay. Let's go back to the instructions. When they type in a guess and press return, does anyone remember what type of event that is? Can you say that louder, B?
It's primary action triggered.
Primary action triggered. So for a UI text field, when you hit return, the type of event, so the type of thing happening in the view, type of thing that you did with the UI, is it triggered the primary action. So the event is primary action triggered. So now, when I create this action, it's going to be a function that does something, whatever behavior we give it inside of that function, when someone hits enter in this specific text field. But, check this out. Yes? Yeah. So you can delete the code, like I can erase the code, and then go back to that element in the UI. And if I right-click on it, it brings up all the stuff that's going on in that text field, all the interface builder aspects to it. I know that's not a very good description, but you see that there are outlets and there are sent events, which are IB actions. So if I X out of that sent event, which is primary action triggered, the thing we just set up, it's going to decouple from the action here. You see that that circle is now blank because it's not coupled to anything. So I can actually handle this in a different way. And this is what we started to talk about yesterday with our delegates on the UI text field. UI text field delegate is a protocol. And I want to make this view controller conform to that. Can someone tell me, let's try Kimball. How can I make this class, what do I type to start to make this class conform to a protocol? So the protocol already exists. We don't have to define it. Now, how do I make this class, this type that I'm making, conform to it? Okay. It looks a little weird, right? Because this class inherits from UI view controller. We can also say after that it's going to implement the protocol for UI text field delegate. So if you want your class to inherit things, it always has to be the first thing. Sorry, I don't think there's really a technical term. The first thing that you type right here. Then after that, you can put each protocol that you want. It also doesn't have to inherit it all, and you could just add multiple protocols. So I could say UI text view delegate. So the thing with protocols is you can have multiple protocols in your type, so in your structure class, so long as what? Ian. Tell me about the stubs. There's your hint. the stubs, the protocol stubs, what do those ensure for us? What is their job? Why do we get that error? So if you remember, when we tried to make, let's make a protocol, a meaningless protocol for this struct. So I've got a protocol, let's call it something with a word count. I get rid of that. Then I say that it's going to have a constant called word count. When I make this struct conform, I gave away the word. When I say that this struct is going to use again, when we give a property, we have to say whether it's a get only or a get and a set. If I want to use that functionality or those properties from that protocol in this struct, what do I say about this struct in its relationship to the protocol? We could say two kind of different words that mean the same thing. It's yelling at me because it has to be of a type. So what do I type so that this struct uses that protocol? Can you say it louder? So colon something with a word count. That's how I want to use this protocol in this struct. Now the question I'm asking you is, this error suggests something. What does the error tell me about our struct, or typed, as compared to the protocol? What's that keyword in that first sentence? Cool. So we say if it doesn't implement the required properties or methods, that it doesn't conform. Because it doesn't have the variable. So it won't adopt the protocol if it doesn't conform to the protocol. So it has to have the stuff in it. And hitting that fix just gives us what they call the protocol stubs. So it automatically fills in for us, here's what you must have in order to conform to the protocol. If we go back to our view controller, we see that our view controller wants to adopt the UI text view delegate. Someone told me this morning, and I totally forgot, why we can do this and there are no stubs. Can someone tell me again? You left? So all of the methods in that protocol are optional. So we're not going to see any stubs when we're dealing with the UI text view delegate. That's the specific setup of that delegate.
Question.
Yes?
So you would create your own protocol and have a in there optional.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have it in the next class or struct. It inherits the same protocol.
So say I did something like that. Yes, that's correct. But
I mean, you have to have insert that line. Line 16.
let's take a look. There's a great way to answer that question. So you still need the stub so that it can potentially have that optional. Okay, I see what you're asking. So the optional methods in UI delegate are different than making a type optional. So this is more like plain English. They're optional. If we look at that delegate, let me go back. Jerk. Just going to make sure this works. I'm going to delete that. If we go to the delegate, so if we go to the protocol, and we look at its definition in some more detail, we're going to see that those optional functions are tagged with optional. So if you wanted to set up in your protocols, excuse me, if you want to set up something in your protocols that is an optional function that isn't required to conform, you'll use that keyword. All right, so right now my view controller conforms to UI text view delegate, but it doesn't do anything. How can I make use of that UI text view delegate? And I'll give you a hint. I don't think I explained this super well yesterday. So let's go through it like in some more detail. The UI text view delegate is going to work on a UI text view. So the UI text view has a property called delegate. And to that property, we assign where is the delegate, where are we getting the UI text view delegate properties and methods from. So we set it equal to self yesterday. I know it was a weird setup, but literally your view controller conforms to UI text view delegate. So when you have a text field, I keep doing that. I'm getting rid of that to make it more clear. UI text field delegate. So when I look at my UI text field, I can set its delegate property to this view controller because this view controller conforms to that type. We said protocols can be used like types without implementation. Protocol has no behavior, but it has a specific setup. It's weird, but you can do it. So I got rid of our action before because I didn't want to say that that specific text field works in a specific way. I want to say, using this delegate protocol, that every text field in our view controller will work in a specific way. And that specific way is I want define a protocol method or a method from the delegate protocol that does something when I hit enter. Does anyone remember what the delegate method is for this in our UI text field delegate? There's a specific name for that function. So start defining func text field should return. Awesome. So we're creating a delegate. I'm just going to say return true right now. We are creating a delegate method. So something we got from our protocol that for anything using our view controller as a delegate will do something when that thing, which is probably going to be a text field, hits enter. That's what this function does. It defines it without knowing what the text fields are. And then it goes ahead and says, hey, I want you to right now just return true when someone hits enter or return on their keyboard.
I have a question. Is that function specifically available because we type in UI text field delegate? So it would never be available.
Yes. So it works exactly like this protocol works that we set up. Your protocol is giving you some properties or behavior that you can then use in your new type. So your type in the view controller is a view controller. And it's going to have the ability for any text fields that it connects to. It's going to have the ability to do whatever functionality it sets in this block of code whenever the text fields that use it as a delegate, so specifically give it, assign the value for delegate as this view controller, it's going to do whatever code is in here. Right now, what we don't have set up is we don't have any text fields that are using this view controller as a delegate. Is it a question, or are you going to tell me how to do it?
No question.
Okay, question.
What if you have like two text fields, but you don't necessarily want to, for that function to run on one of them, but there is like another function you want to use?
Interesting. There are a few ways you could do it. You could give this text field, for example, a tag, and you could say if text field dot tag is equal to 1. There are a bunch of different ways you could look at the properties. So tag is like the broadest because every view has a tag. So you could do something like that. You would just look at the text field itself and say, is this the one I want? Iram?
Yeah, I was going to add that, in that one, you could say if text field equals whatever the name of the output is assigned to, that's one way you can put it.
Just gave it away.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay. So how can we set up our text fields?
You know what I said.
How can we set up our text fields so that the view controller can be a delegate for them? What's the first step? Jack. So I've got my view controller. It is a UI text field delegate. Damn it. Sorry. I'm back. Now I want to set up my text fields so that this view controller is their delegate. I think there are like 2 steps. So how would we do it? Yeah. So UI text field has a property called delegate that points to some UI text field delegate, something that conforms to the protocol. I've got one text field right now in my interface builder, and I want to set it up so that that text field has as its delegate this view controller. So it's just this guy. It doesn't really have a name yet, so how can we give it a name? Yes, so we'll create an outlet. What do you want to call this? Nice. Input text field. It's a really good name because it describes exactly what it's for. So now we've got the text field. What can we do next?
So inside the delegate.
Great. So for this text field, its delegate property is going to be equal to self. Let's look at delegate real quick again. So when I try to type in delegate, it says that the type of that thing is a UI text field delegate. Since UI text field delegate is a protocol, this property in our text field just has to conform to that protocol. It doesn't have to be of any other specific type. It just has to be something conforming to that protocol. And right now, self is a thing that conforms to that protocol, because any instance of this view controller conforms to that protocol. And that means that when we use this text field protocol method, that now, because our text field has as its delegate this view controller, this text field should return function works for that specific text field. So we've delegated the duty of handling what should return for any text field using this view controller as its delegate. We've delegated that to the view controller, and now this specific text field is using the view controller as its delegate to do all that stuff. So we can just use this like any other function. So I'm going to say, to test it out, we will print return anytime that text field has, what's the interaction with this function? Angela.